It's easy breaking down in the bright lights.
Come and find me.
When you've been going around every dark side.
Like a bad dream.
But something in your eyes tells me you're a wild child, hungry for a good time, honey. Lots of pretty lights, drinking up your time now, dressing up your mind in folly. Building up a house, now you're burning it down, 'cause you're gonna do what you wanna. Thriving in a mess, hoping for the best. Say you're not afraid of the karma. Always up the sound of things hitting the ground, so don't go telling your mama. Placing all your bets, play it close to the chest now, 'cause you love the drama. You love the drama. You love the drama. You could start a war from a whisper.
Don't tell 'em.
You wanna play with fire, then you get burned. But something in your eyes says you don't run at heights, says you've been charming snakes for a long time. Say everyone loves a wild child. Building up a house, now you're burning it down, 'cause you're gonna do what you wanna. Thriving in a mess, hoping for the best. Say you're not afraid of the karma. Always up the sound of things hitting the ground, so don't go telling your mama. Placing all your bets, play it close to the chest now, 'cause you love the drama. You love the drama. I love the drama. You love the drama. You love the drama. Watching a good thing go bad, till all the good ones get mad. Giving and taking away. Why do we portray such beautiful things? Holding the kingdom keys. Gilded lies on gilded strings. We'll give them a show, because we know they love the drama. Building up a house, now you're burning it down, 'cause you're gonna do what you wanna. Thriving in a mess, hoping for the best. Say you're not afraid of the karma. Always love the sound of things hitting the ground, so don't go telling your mama. Placing all your bets, play it close to the chest now, 'cause you love the drama. Building up a house, now you're burning it down, 'cause you're gonna do what you wanna. Thriving in a mess, hoping for the best. Say you're not afraid of the karma. Always up the sound of things hitting the ground, so don't go telling your mama. Placing all your bets, play it close to the chest now, 'cause you love the drama. You love the drama. You love the drama.
Hoping for a sincere performance, but open to finding the moment, to finding out where I'm headed now. Looking for a sign of disaster, so I can make it there faster. I'm weighing the consequences out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains take it or leave it. How you can blend in with the crowd. I'm so scared, so damn afraid to look. I'm so sick of talking. I'm wearing the words out, words out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I'll keep going till I make it to the other side, the other side. When it feels like everyone's out to get me, I see the river on the back of my eyes.
Have you ever wished you could snap your fingers and have all the CE you needed to renew your license right at your fingertips at an affordable price? Or do you even know what is required to renew your license? Most people think they know until they are audited. And while they were busy treating patients, their dental board added a new required course to the list. They didn't hear about it, and now they're stuck frantically searching for a course to meet those last-minute requirements. Well, snap your fingers because it's here, and it's affordable. We've done the research and built a system that tracks your CE in accordance with your license type and the state you live in. We offer weekly courses on topics that are required and courses that are highly sought after. We notify you on your CE progress and remind you to accomplish tasks by certain deadlines. And you just get to log in from wherever you enjoy spending your time and fill your head with knowledge. I know this sounds too good to be true, and if you don't believe me, check it out for yourself. We don't make you agree to a contract, and it's easy to cancel, so there isn't any risk in joining. Simply sign up, or if you're already a member, log in and upgrade and start adding courses to your dashboard. Let CE Zoom do the heavy lifting for you. We do the research, we provide the courses, we track your CE, you just show up.
Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm Tori, Senior Client Support Specialist with CE Zoom. Before we get started, I am just going to take a few minutes to quickly run through a few housekeeping items. First and foremost, just a reminder, this is a webinar, so it will require a good internet connection. If for any reason you have technical issues, my best recommendation is going to be to refresh and try re-entering using the link you used to get here. If you haven't noticed yet, we do have a chat box to the right of your screen. Feel free to use that to talk among your fellow attendees, make any comments about the presentation. We'll utilize that box to share any important information as well. We will have a Q&A session at the end with our speaker. So if you have any questions, that's a great time to ask them, and you can use the Q&A feature at the bottom to do so. At the conclusion of tonight's course, a verification code will be shown, and this verification code is going to be extremely important if you want your CE. You'll return to cezoom.com, log into your account, and scroll down until you see tonight's course. You might have to click that little arrow by My Scheduled Courses. That'll drop down everything you've registered for. You'll find tonight's course with a green Verify button. You'll enter the code that was given and take any mandatory course evaluations. And then once all those steps are taken, your CE certificate will be right in your CE Zoom account, both on your dashboard and in records under Manage CE. We just ask that you allow us about 72 hours just to check analytics and confirm your attendance. If you have any issues with that verification process or have any other questions about CE Zoom, you can always reach out to us at help@cezoom.com. I'll repeat that instructions about the verification code at the end, but for now, I'd like to introduce Brian Dershell from Synergy Dental Partners. Hi, Brian.
Tori, thanks so much. Thanks for having us. I'm so excited about the webinar tonight. It's engineered to help you, the dentist, save money on the things that you buy every day. So I know we see a bunch of webinars and we get a bunch of CE, but it's rare that we see something on how we can actually save money on the products that we buy every day. And we've got Jim Gochis with us tonight, who has a long history of negotiating with distributors and suppliers and manufacturers in both the medical industry and the dental industry. I'm Brian Dershell. Again, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Synergy Dental Partners. I've been in the dental industry now for about 15 years on both equipment service, sales, and most recently on running the Synergy Dental Partners, which I mentioned earlier was a GPO, or a dental buying group, if you're not familiar. And what a dental buying group / GPO does is we leverage our members, and we've got thousands of dentists who are members of the Synergy Dental Partners. We leverage the members to help us negotiate with suppliers and manufacturers and service providers to deliver the best deals in the industry, equivalent to a 500 practice DSO. And we sort of look at it as an independent practitioner, which we are supporting and trying to help grow, can either sell to a DSO, which we, our team, never sell, or join a GPO and save money on all the things that you guys purchase every day. So again, with us tonight, we couldn't have a more veteran, a more experienced procurement executive in the industry. Jim Gochis is going to run you through a presentation with a tremendous amount of takeaways, things that you can do, you can institute in your practice this week, next month, to help you save money, which will, of course, make you more money on your bottom line. So without further ado, I'll bring in Jim Gochis. I'll be back at the end, and we'll do some Q&A at the end. So glad to have you, Jim. I'll turn it over to you.
All righty. Well, thanks, Brian, for that. I appreciate the intro and the little background that you gave on our company, Synergy Dental Partners. But I would like to preface for everybody that this presentation is very agnostic in approach. And so while I work for a company that helps dentists and their staff, their hygienists and other clinicians and business operations staff, these are things that I'm going to talk about that can be implemented in a dental practice through the team in the practice's collaboration with each other and their supplier partners and services and so forth. So everything that I'm going to talk about today is really driven to give, this is a 1 hour presentation, so I can go on forever with so many procurement things that can be done. But this is kind of the meat of some really, I guess I could say easy things. That's a dangerous word when I say easy, because nothing is completely easy when you're implementing a process or a change to affect a meaningful value, a cost savings, or a cost avoidance in a practice. But these are things that I've been involved in, initiatives in hospitals and healthcare in my career, and dental practices, and I've seen great outcomes. I know that the information that I'm going to talk about tonight works, and it's proven, and it can be done in a number of different ways, with the office staff collaborating or with help from GPOs like my company. So let's jump right in. So the learning objectives here. Some people sometimes they confuse, what are cost savings and cost avoidance? What is the difference, and what does that all mean for me? And how do I kind of weed through all of that? So what we're going to focus on are myriad of different avenues that a dental practice can take in the cost avoidance and cost savings space. So cost savings is in the simplest form, getting the best price, getting a low price, finding a very aggressive and competitive price out there and what the market bears and what you can negotiate and get. And then avoidance is actually where you may not even have to make a certain purchase for a certain thing, a part of a service or a product, or avoidance as far as maybe overstocking or hoarding in a dental practice, so to speak. So that's cost avoidance. So there are different definitions there. So spend management. When you talk about spend management and affecting the bottom line in a dental practice and how you can become more efficient, there are certain things that we call the low-hanging fruit. It's the dental supplies, the equipment, lab fees. Then you get into things like employee wages, property leases, and insurance fees and so forth. Now, those things are negotiable as well. It's just that there is a narrower margin as far as what you can and can't do to drive the costs down and lower your financial risk. So there are many of the things that I'm going to talk about are, like I said, some of those quick hit areas. So let's talk a little bit here about industry benchmarks. And before I go further into this, because I'm going to have some data here that I'm going to go through in this 1 hour, that for everybody who attends this video, this presentation is going to get the video of this presentation. It's going to be recorded. So you don't have to worry about taking copious notes and worrying about some of these analytics that I'm sharing here. But I want to give you some benchmarks on what the dental industry bears and says is healthy and good. And a lot of this comes from Pressgani and Gartner and other indices that measure performance in dental practices and healthcare overall. So you want to look at a percent of your revenue as your overhead cost. And so when we look at supplies here, so supplies, you'd like to consider as a basic guideline. Some practices, they'll be in the 8 to 10% on supplies as a percentage of revenue. And they might not even realize that that's not healthy for their P&L. I think if you start to read a lot of the trade magazines and blogs and so forth, you start to get a feel for maybe if I'm in that area and others are saying that, it should be much lower, then maybe there's areas for improvement for me. So the good guide here is 5% will tell you that you're in good shape as compared to, others out there who are maybe way outside the box. 6%, you're starting to get into an opportunity for improvement where you want to start looking at where you can shave on your costs, where you can improve. And then this is my little joke, old TV show, Lost in Space, Danger Will Robinson, the robot. If you get to 7% and above, it's really time to address your spend practices. But saying this, there's still opportunity. If you're running very lean as a dental practice and the key is without compromising quality and service to your patient and your overall practice operations, sometimes you can get below 5%, sometimes 4%, sometimes 3.5%. Then if you start to get even lower than that, something's not jiving right. So labs, the desired target, 6 to 8%. Again, many practices are in the 13+% range. And a lot of practices, when they're negotiating with a lab or a third party, like Synergy is a third party that negotiates lab prices for our members, the focus sometimes for the dental practice is strictly on the price alone for the crowns and all on fours and so forth. But really you have to look at the type of service, the turnaround time, the quality, the remakes. The remakes is a big thing. The percent of remakes that the lab has with your practice that affects everything from delays with patient chair time, costs all around that. A good lab will work with, aside from price, you get all that nailed down, a good lab will work with a dental practice and note when remake trends start creeping up. And sometimes there might be an issue in the dental practice with the quality of the scan or the impression. And it really is a responsibility of a good lab partner to bring that to attention and look at the root cause and work with the practice to lower those remakes. So there's a lot that's involved aside from just price with labs. And then other areas here, and you'll get this, like I said in the recording, you could use this as a good frame of reference for healthy areas for your percent overhead of revenue for these different categories. So when we talk about cost efficiency, I want to give some examples here that are easy to get your head around. Some of the, as Brian said at the beginning of the presentation, you know, there are a lot of these webinars that are out there, and a lot of them are kind of broad brush, cost savings, save money, and they'll start to get into real deep data analytics in their presentation. And that is fine if you have, you know, that kind of mindset, if you're that kind of thinker, or if you have an accountant with you watching. But very often I like to just have kind of real life scenarios. And so, you know, this is a real life scenario that I wanted to give a couple of examples of that a doctor has implemented. Of course, I changed the doctor's name. And you could see here that this doctor has 1 million annual revenue practice, right? 7%, which is 70,000 currently spending in supplies percentage, and then 5% would be the target for improvement of $20,000 reduction. So just three areas. Now, like I said, they're easy to get your head around, but it takes a village. It takes a team to really make these types of things happen where you're going to make a change. And that is, for example, determine the right supplier pricing. So you might have a supplier out there, you might be getting your impression material, your composites, you know, there's just so many different suppliers. And then within, if I say supplier and I'm talking about distributors, within the distributor, there are a myriad of manufacturers that have their offerings. So the distributor themselves would also sell quite a bit of impression materials and composites and so forth. So really, you know, weeding through what the best solution is for you, again, without compromising quality and the service level to the patient. So the solution, the ultimate solution you want to get to is move to a more cost-effective price point. That's you know, the thing that everybody looks for first, the best price. And the result here with this doctor in making one supplier change brought a 12% annual savings based on the spend. So right there, $7,500 a year while buying the same products. This is just not even changing the product, whether it's, you know, whatever brand, you know, Acme brand, just changing the supplier and getting a new price point has contributed to the $20,000 reduction. Right there, you got $7,500 of your savings. So then there's some tricks to this. So you don't just do this and then walk away and then, you know, everything stays the same and you're always saving money. So I'll get into that in a couple of slides. Then another opportunity here, formulary compliance. So that's changing brands very often, unless your brand happens to be on a supplier's formulary. And just to give a high level definition on the formulary, they've been fairly new to the dental industry in the past, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 years. Formularies were more in the medical world. And what it represents mostly in the simplest term is a formulary is a subset of products from a supplier that are the most commonly ordered out of all of their customers. So commonly ordered mostly brings down the price because it's a volume from that supplier. And that then brings the most attractive price. So formulary is most commonly ordered at the most attractive price. And some suppliers have formularies that they recommend to a dentist, and you have to be careful. Sometimes they'll say, this is my formulary, and it's, you know, hundreds of thousands of items. And it's really, just their item file. They want you to buy everything. But if they're working with you, they'll work with your practice to find the right products for that formulary. And that's what you try to live within working with as best as you can aspire to those items that are on the formulary. And then if you have something that's needed off formulary, you go outside of that from the supplier. And so you're controlling your costs that way. And that's another thing that we happen to do at Synergy is we work with our suppliers to build formularies for our members, so they just have that right there for them. So Dr. Jones here spends $5,000 a year on composites alone. The solution was to shift from the higher cost premium name brand to equal quality formulary brands. So sometimes as a trial, the doctor has to try out the product, make sure it does fit the bill on quality and functionality. And then when you get the right product and you make the move, like Dr. Jones has saved $2,500 a year just by changing the brand and sticking to the formulary. So that amount then contributes to the $20,000. And then lab pricing and remake mitigation. So as I had mentioned earlier, here's another area that is getting special rates from a lab and knowing that those rates are special, doing your due diligence and understanding, or having a third-party partner to do that due diligence to show you that this is what the market bears, this is what the labs are charging, and this is where there's a meaningful opportunity for you to get a new price point from either the same lab or a new one. And then getting into those controlled remake mitigation collaborative events and making sure that the lab sometimes is afraid to make a wave and afraid to upset the customer, and they'll just keep doing remakes over and over until somebody says something, and then that does nobody any favors. When it's done right and you've got the right partner, like Dr. Jones here, the doctor has saved $20,000 a year. So this all contributes to some really tight processes that need to be followed and maintained. But when that's done, then the savings just continue on and on year over year. So that's a beautiful thing. So challenges, some of this that I'm talking about here, it can be daunting. It's a lot sometimes. And you think about the practice and all of the different personalities, all the different types of business functions in the practice, the hygienist, the office manager, the dentist, and partners and associates and so forth, and how you pull all that together. So for an independent dentist, it can be difficult. You've got to kind of rally the troops and make sure that everyone is on board with the common goal and the mission. And so some of those, what comes with some of those challenges are, establishing the parameters, the process, and the controls. Some of it I discussed in the previous slide. And then staff management of the goals. So once you go out the gate and you make a change in the practice, and this is how we're going to do it, and we're all going to work towards the formulary and order off the formulary unless we find that we need to order off of it for a certain reason. Staying compliant with that process. So managing to the goals is really important. Getting the better pricing, controlling the spend, and navigating case acceptance, revenue, growth opportunities. So this is an important one. You can get the better pricing, you can control the spend, and then you start to get into things like case acceptance and patient financing opportunities. And there are quite a few patient financing companies out there. At Synergy, we've partnered with Care Credit. And what we found with Care Credit is it's pretty interesting because there are so many of these different financing suppliers. We've learned that there's kind of a trifecta approach with patient financing. It's getting the right rate for the dentist to have that relationship with the financing solution, getting the right type of financing options to broaden your attraction for patients to have opportunities to finance where it's not going to be a turnoff financially for them and they're going to turn it down and walk out the door, because once they walk out the door, they're probably not going to come back to get that crown financed. And then the other part of it is the service from the financing company. That's a big part of it. Some financing companies are not as engaged with the practice. They'll just put the flyers on the counter, and the practice staff doesn't really know how to navigate. I don't know if I like to use the word selling, but explaining to the patient the opportunities that they have available to finance their healthcare. So that's really important. Navigating the case acceptance and revenue growth opportunities with patient financing. And so just keep in mind, Care Credit happens to be one of the leaders in that area that we have partnered with. Negotiating skills. So thinking about this down here, I wrote supplier management, shopping. So that goes with negotiating skills. So you can imagine office staff where they could maybe be focusing on so many other priority functions in the practice, but you have somebody shopping for, I go back to composites and impression material because there are just so many, it's dizzying out there. And they're just going to go from, whenever they have to place an order, from one supplier to the other, and they're going to look at the price and what is it today, and they're going to look at that price and look at this one and look at that one, and then they're going to get different invoices and they're going to manage all of that. So sometimes that shopping aspect is a replacement for negotiating skills. If someone can negotiate that price point and make sure that the supplier adheres to it and sticks to it under the terms that were negotiated, then the shopping doesn't happen anymore. That goes away, and you're with a loyal partner and have a great supply relationship. So, that's my career. That's what I've been doing for all these years. And that's procurement and what it really is. And, many people in a dental practice, they're not procurement people, and that's understandable. You come into a dental practice with a certain function, and then you find, it'd be nice to know some of these things so I could help save money for the practice. Navigating proposals and bids, that's part of the negotiating. The supplier will then give a proposal. How do you weed through all of that? How do you figure all of that out? And who to partner with. So many suppliers out there. You look on LinkedIn, Facebook groups, all over social media, dental trade, magazines and blogs and so forth. And everybody's coming at you with a different solution and try to figure them, well, which is the best? Sometimes what you might think is the best is when the supplier rep is walking in your front door and telling you it's the best. So you got to be careful. Controlling the supply spend. So some strategies here. Talk about budgets, and you really want to understand those industry averages. So on that previous slide earlier, I gave you some of those averages there. They've been pretty static for the last handful of years. So it's good to do your homework and understand where is a good place for me to be as far as a budget and aspiring to stay within that spend level. Product standardization, getting those formularies in place, setting clinical use guidelines. And you can imagine when you have a formulary and you have a suite of products that are repetitively used, it starts to set clinical use guidelines within the practice. So not one person is using this product and not one person is using that product, which is in the same category. You start to standardize the approach and the way you use the products. And I say this as a non-clinician, but I know, being by the side of clinicians for so many years, that that's something that's important to them. You start to reduce the number of products and suppliers. So that adds to management efficiency. And these are soft savings, actually, because you're not having to worry about all of these invoices and payments and tracking and monitoring and so forth. And that's what you would call maverick spend, going outside of your standard process that you establish in the dental practice. You want to control that maverick spend and stay focused. Patient financing solutions. Again, I put Care Credit as a partner. I can't say that, emphasize that any further. that so often, even when I go to get a cleaning for my teeth, and I see 3 different patient financing companies, I've been blessed to not have to dig too deeply into financing needs because I have good teeth. But I can imagine that some of the patients are, they just see these flyers there and, they don't know what to do. And I don't imagine that the staff is going to have 3 different patient financing solutions available that they can speak fluently to. Just that, it's just diluted offerings. And if you're going to have 3 financing solutions, you're probably not getting a great rate from your financing partner because you're diluting their opportunity as well with the patient load in your practice. Managing inventory. So you want to consolidate your orders, your order frequency, 1 time a week or 2 times a month. Where do you want to go with this? Some folks do 1 time a week. Does it really need to be? Can it be twice a month? Can you have the right stock levels so that you don't have to be just, running back to the computer and ordering constantly? And that starts to mess with an inventory plan. You want to have stock lists and required quantities and reduce overstock or hoarding. And sometimes, human nature, we get compelled to start having more than we really need because we get nervous we're going to run out or something's going to happen, or the big UPS potential strike from some weeks ago is a worry. A lot of these products have expiration dates, so you got to worry about that. So, you want a FIFO, they call it in procurement, in warehouse management, first in, first out. You want to make sure that when you get your products in and you're putting them in the supply closet, that you're putting the ones that you ordered first, moving them to the front because they have the expiration dates that are coming sooner, and the newer ones you put behind them rather than just keep putting stuff in the front, which puts you in a dangerous situation, not only from a cost perspective, but from patient safety. So you want to look at that and buy get deal parameters. Really, what are they offering? If sometimes you have a supplier that'll say buy 3 get 1 free, but the price is higher. If you have a supplier partner with a low price all the time, you're making out better financially. You're saving more money. That's another thing that we do. That's a big responsibility of mine and my company, is make sure that I get those types of relationships with suppliers so that those buy get deals that look enticing go away because you're getting such a low price. So increase your spending power. You want to get the best pricing, leveraged volume buying through third-party partnerships. You can do that with a GPO. It's hard for an independent dentist to do it alone because you're alone and you're not a DSO, a dental service organization, that has that kind of buying power. I'm going to talk about DSOs and the difference between DSOs and GPOs in a moment. This is an important one. Manage your suppliers. Don't let them manage you. Review your invoices, shipping, ancillary fees. Creep, I call it creep. It's cost creep. That's where you get a great deal from a supplier on pricing. And there you go, you got a great deal. And then what happens a few months later? The price starts to go up. And then it goes up again, and it goes up again. And who's watching that? Who's paying attention? Who's challenging that with the supplier? So you've got to be really careful because you might get a great deal on the front end and then you're hooked. You can never just kind of pull the trigger and then walk away. You always have to manage and monitor the business side of the relationship to efficiently run the dental practice. Incorporate fiscal responsibility into employee training. So this is an important thing. And I tell a lot of the dentists that I've worked with before is, when your staff will go through training and they learn the components of effective spend management in the practice, and then either they get promoted in the practice, their role changes, or they leave. Then somebody new and somebody else new comes in and the whole thing starts to erode and disappear. it really needs to be baked into onboarding with all new employees. Part of the HR package is you go through this kind of a train the trainer scenario. You have the lead in the office who knows all of this and is mandated to follow through with these strategies as their owning dentist requires. And that person is training everybody in with the same protocol and all of the same processes, so it never goes away and it always stays consistent. And in order to do so, you have to have the right person, the right operational leader. That person really needs to be a champion and invested in wanting to do the right thing, because it really makes it easier for everybody all in the end. So what to do about it? So implementing the plan and the processes, what can you do on your own? Like I said, it can be daunting. What do you want to do on your own? Or partnering with another solution provider, like a third party, like a GPO. There are considerations, you've got to be aware of partial spend management strategies. For example, you get the great price, but you have no budget. So even if you have a great price, and even if that price stays static and you have a trusting supplier that's, excuse me, not going to raise it, you have no budget. So you have nothing to really keep you on track as far as if you're spending too much, buying too much of that product. It goes back to the hoarding and the overstocking that I mentioned. So you got to be aware of those kinds of like slippage type things. Aligning with the right suppliers, going out to bid, and proposal analysis. Have your list of products. You've got to really be diligent. You've got to put your procurement hat on. And you can't just kind of shop around, like I said, and when it's time to order and go from website to website and look for the best deal at the moment. Get your list together on what you want a supplier to commit to, and form a solid relationship. Know your strengths and weaknesses and those of your staff. You could have staff that does fabulous in so many areas, but this is just not their thing. So, do you have the right people doing the work? Do you need help? Do you need, whether it's a change in your practice or you start to look outside to third-party services for that kind of help? Those are some things you really have to think about in what direction you want to go. Consistency in management is key. Don't put the program in place and just think it's going to run by itself. That's the bane of my existence as well, is in forming supplier relationships, is frequently having meetings and discussions with them, looking through the analytics of how we're doing the spend, where's the spend going up and down over a certain period, and why. Was there a drop in cases, or is there some other implication that we could fix or look at to improve upon? Do you know the market well enough to make the educated decisions on product price and control? I could tell you for myself, being in procurement and being confronted day in and day out with different suppliers who have all say they have the next best thing. Well, how do we know that? So there's a lot of research, clinical outcomes that have to be looked at, trials, tests, and so forth. And for an independent practice to get involved in that when they're trying to make a living and caring for patients is a real challenge. So something to think about. Part of why I exist in this company that I'm with right now. So this is compelling. So take a look at this. So the first picture is you got your negotiated savings, and that's just great. You got your big bus going, but then it's crossing the track of weak contract management. So that means you've got the deal, and then you're not looking and minding the store and paying attention. So you got your great price point, but then all these things are happening behind it, and this just goes away and gets pushed to the side, and you're back to not having good spend management, higher costs, and you're not avoiding as many costs as you could. So this is just a compelling image. So how do DSOs do it? DSOs, some of them, and I won't disparage them because there are a lot of great ones out there. Inside of a DSO, sometimes it depends on the type of business, the amount of business that the dentist brings into the practice that the DSO is involved, engaged with, that dictates what the DSO will mandate for that practice to do as far as their rules. You will buy from this supplier, you will buy this product from this supplier, and we have it at this price, and this is how you're going to run your office in all these other ways. So DSOs typically, though, high level, they have a lot of mandates in place. So they have the dental practice staff, and there's the book of rules, and this is, you know, how you follow it, and you don't deviate from that. I've worked in healthcare on the medical side as well, where I worked for a large hospital corporation, and that's pretty much how it was. It's, you know, you follow the mantra. But with any great organization, even with those types of processes, sometimes there's opportunity for improvement, and the improvement doesn't take hold because sometimes they're big to the point where they can't get out of their own way. But they do so many other great things. The thing with DSOs that's different than, say, a GPO, and I'll next slide will explain that, is the DSOs mandate what you will use and who you will buy it from. So these are some of the things here. Then when you talk about the difference with a GPO doesn't mandate. So the challenge for the GPO is that we have to work extra hard to get a really good program and benefit for a dental practice in price and quality and service, because those suppliers know that we can't mandate. So it's not in their mind as easy as a DSO doing a deal and saying, all right, we're going to give you all this business and we just crack the whip and you're going to get it all. With a GPO, we have to be super selective, super high quality. Not that a DSO isn't, it's just that in the eyes of the supplier, we have to be so good that they have confidence that our members will buy their product, and then they are willing to give us a very attractive deal that we are able to give as a benefit to our members who sign up to be part of our GPO. So Synergy is not the only GPO out there. We happen to be the largest and the longest running, but there are just a handful of GPOs in the dental space. There are many in the medical space, and they all kind of run high level very similarly. But then when you start to peel back the layers, there are levels of quality that are different from one to the other. So if you do ever explore a GPO, there are certain things that you'll want to, look for as far as their service levels and what it is that they do on your behalf. It's all about the GPO doing the work for you instead of you having to do all the work, and vetting the right suppliers, getting the right service, having freedom of choice and flexibility, but you're within a great price point and service and supplier that you don't have to worry about. The decisions and the choices are being made for you. Living formularies, that's important. When I say living formularies, I mean a formulary that is just not a list of items that sits in perpetuity as the industry and economy and technologies and changes in products occur. The formulary has to evolve with all of those things. The formulary has to have items that maybe become obsolete, no longer valuable, they get removed from the formulary. Other items that are not on the formulary and they're starting to get a lot of attraction, well, the procurement people, whether you're in your dental practice or you're working with a GPO, are obligated to negotiate, understand those items that are targeted to negotiate that the dentists want, that's the demand, to put on the formulary and to make sure that the price is the right price for the dentist. So a lot of these things are really important to make sure that any GPO that you might explore is able to provide for you as a service. Relationships with both the distributor and the manufacturer, controls being held hostage. So a good GPO will not only have a great relationship with their distributor, but the manufacturers that sell to the distributor. So they get to know each other, they get to form a partnership and a relationship and all understand the value that everybody brings. Ultimately, the biggest desire is to take care of the dentist and them take care of their patients. And when that's all, that formula is in place, everybody wants to help the common cause, and you're not being held hostage by a distributor or a manufacturer who says, well, you know, this is our price, take it or leave it. And you know, that's just the way it is, because that's not a healthy relationship and it's not sustainable. The risks and rewards of a spend management plan. So understanding the needs and aligning with the right partner. So the risk is complacency, not paying attention to the overhead financials on any levels, consistency, when you're losing traction, you have a great plan. Like I said, you go out the gate and then you just, you know, think it's going to run. Lack of metrics, you don't know how to measure it. Like I said, with a budget or aspiring to a healthy percentage of your revenue as a percent of overhead, not knowing how your financials are doing, then you know it's then you're not even motivated. So you know these are all risks, not just not knowing what to do, getting paralyzed which way to go. If you don't have a spend management plan in place, you know these things just really can hurt a practice. The reward, if you really put your efforts in place, again, like I said, whether you try to go it alone or you look for a partner that can understand these things, there are a lot of rewards. There are more than I put here, but the slide only fits this much. So you've got lower overhead spend. Your unit cost control is significant. You have less suppliers, and those. And the fact that you have less suppliers, you start to build real relationships instead of folks like walking into the practice with, you know, whatever gift it is for the day, or, you know, ice cream and donuts, and, you know, they let me place the order for you kind of mindset. You've gotten real standardization. And I like this because it's not only from pricing, but it's from a clinical operations perspective. Standardization goes such a long way. And you start to limit your liability with product expirations. And, you know, there's gray market out there, which you all may have heard of. Gray market is products that some suppliers sell that's not meant for sale in the United States. It's either been diverted from a boat, or it's not meant for sale in the country, but maybe for another country. And so you can get it at a lower price, but you don't know if it has an ingredient in there that is maybe banned by the FDA. It gets you in real trouble. And then efficiencies. Practice staff loves efficiencies. So I just want to thank you all. I really talked a lot, and I hope it was informative. Like I said, it's it is being recorded, so it's going to be shared with all of the attendees, so you can look back and pause as I talk pretty fast. I'm from New York, and just you know, keep in mind, if you are interested in exploring Synergy, we've got a Q&A coming up in a second. But here's some contact info for Synergy. And again, Care Credit is a valued partner of ours, and I wanted to make sure I talk a little bit about them because we're just so happy with the partnership we have and what they're doing for our members. So thank you.
Hey, Jim, great job. So we've got a handful of questions. Also saw some interesting things pop up in the chat. You probably didn't pick up on it because you're giving the presentation, but there was a couple comments on just managing supplies and managing spend and finding the right person to do it and shopping. And I wanted to point out that you know, one of our partners is Method Procurement, which is a technology, a SaaS product that helps doctors compare prices on different products based on the SKU. So in other words, you can buy from, let's say, 3 distributors, you could type in a SKU and you can see the price of that product from all the distributors that you buy from and decide right there who you're going to purchase it from. So it's a really easy way to help you decide based on the price of the product where you should buy it. And we're partners with Method, and our members can use Method at no additional cost. A couple other questions, Jim, and one of them is actually specifically, I think, in relation to Care Credit, who's our sponsor tonight. And that question is asking, when searching for the best patient financing company for my practice and my patients, what should I look for? You might want to take that on, Jim. Can you answer that one?
Sure, yeah. So I touched on it briefly, but let me expound a little bit. So patient financing, there are a lot of companies out there. They'll have financing offerings for, they call it prime, subprime, deep subprime. It depends on the type of patient base that you have, that, as far as what you're interested in covering for your patients. If you're maybe you have a large Medicare or Medicaid population, and if you have, private pay, how you want to go. But generally, a practice likes to have a partner that can cover different areas, prime down to at least subprime, potentially deep subprime. And with that then comes how that patient financing solution will help the patient without charging these egregious percentages. So you've got to get that, settled. But then one of the big things with a patient financing company is that comes into play is the financing company has to have a vested interest in making sure that the practice understands, is fully trained with a really deep protocol on how to explain the different financing options, how to understand the psychological triggers as to whether a patient is getting ready to walk out the door and they're not going to pay for the service that's been presented, to understand the cues to offer financing, and go through all of that in the way that the financing company knows it's successful. That's another thing that Care Credit does really well. But then for the financing company to recognize through the utilization month over month with the practice, do business reviews and say, hey, we noticed something dropped off. We noticed, that you had, a lot of financing going on in these months, and then it started to drop. That might be an indicator, and this one indicator is pretty common, is that the staff has changed, and the change in the practice staff no longer is embracing and understanding how to sell the solution to the patient, or offer the solution to the patient. So that becomes a huge challenge. Now, Care Credit goes in there and they monitor that very closely, and they'll what we call in-service. And they'll make sure, and they'll see if there were changes in the practice staff. That's one example, but usually it's erosion in the practice staff of the aspect of being able to articulate the options for a patient to be able to pay for their own health care. So you got to really find the right solution there, and Care Credit's just one of the best. So.
Yep, good answer. Maybe we can team up on this next one. What is the cost to join Synergy for the dentist? I'll answer that one. That's a pretty easy one. And then the next part of that question is, how does Synergy make money? And I'll do my best to try to answer that in a concise manner and not take up too much time. So the cost to join Synergy for dentists, it depends on how many practices, but for a single practice, it's $199 a month. And we have a trial period, so you can sign up and you can try out all of our suppliers. You can look at the prices, and then you can decide whether or not it makes sense for your practice. And it really kind of comes down to simple math, right? If you're going to pay $199 a month to join Synergy, you better be saving more than $199 a month, or you better be getting value in other ways. Which there's other ways to get value. We have a partnership with the Dental Success Network, and we have Method and other suppliers that our members can utilize for no additional cost. But ideally, we negotiate with suppliers, and the pricing is going to be low enough that when you purchase from these suppliers, you need to be saving in excess of the monthly fee, or it doesn't make sense to join. So it's kind of a simple math equation. We look at it like you're going to pay $199 a month. You better save 2 times that, or at least 1.5 times it to make any sense. I know I wouldn't pay $199 a month to save $199. That doesn't make any sense. So again, I mean, this is what Jim does. This is what he spent a career doing, and that's negotiating with suppliers. The other part of the question is, how does Synergy make money? Primarily from a commission on what's purchased from our supply partners. So our 3,000 members buy services and supplies from our partners, and we make a small percentage of that. We win, you win. The distributor wins because they increase their volume, but they're selling at a lower margin. I think I got it, Jim. I don't know if you want to add anything to that answer.
You nailed it, Brian. And just to add to that, you talk about method procurement. Method procurement on the street has a fee associated with it. Many procurement platforms do. We subsidize that for our members, so we actually pay method, and then our members get method for free. So there are a few ways. There are some suppliers that we have such pricing relationships where their margins are very slim on the supplier side, but we want to get that price for our member. So we do not collect a commission on that. The only way that we would collect a commission from a supplier with the ones that we do is when we see that they are understanding what we call forest for the trees mentality, the volume purchasing as the purpose of the existence of the GPO, and leveraging all the volume that they, as Brian said, could give us such a low price that it's the lowest possible price that we are able to, whether you call it a commission or administrative fee, in order to run our business, to do what we do for our members, then that's the nominal piece. And I'll tell you this in full transparency. When I negotiate with suppliers, I tell them, we're not greedy at Synergy. I want to be very conservative in any kind of a commission that you're going to offer us, because I want the high percentage discount on pricing for our members. And that's really a mandate that we have with our supplier relationships. And that's kind of a breath of fresh air for many people. That's how we roll.
Yeah, I mean, just one other thing to add to that, we get approached by different suppliers and service providers all the time. We try to figure out who is the best, a world-class supplier of product, and then we try to negotiate the lowest possible price we can for our members. And so we have to accomplish both of those things. It has to be a great supplier, and it has to be a great deal for our members, or we're not interested. And what we do in return is we expose our membership base to these suppliers. So we, in essence, we market what they're selling to our members, and our members get a deal on everything that we negotiate. Another question: can you please show the industry average breakdown for practice spending again? Jim, I think that was in your deck. I mean, everybody's going to get the deck, I believe, if they request it.
Yeah, if you'd like to take a picture of it, yeah, I could do wait, I'm screen sharing, so you could see it right now, right?
Yeah, that is probably that's probably the most important slide of the deck.
Yeah,
right there.
This is a wonderful guide. So, and this will be, as Brian said, it's in the recording, so you'll see it come up, and you can use it as you like.
Questions. I think we might have time for one more of these. Specifically about supplies. This doctor is saying, I have 10 types of composites, 7 brands of gloves, and other numerous products within the same category. What's the best way to resolve this? Sounds like there's some confusion on how they should buy or what they should buy.
So the question was, I have so many gloves types, and which ones?
Yep, 10 types of composites, 7 brands of gloves, and other products within the same category. How do I resolve this?
Okay. So, well, there's a couple of things. So as a clinician, and I'll speak carefully about this because, as I said, I'm not a clinician. So if you have all of these different types of gloves, very often it comes from different requests and desires from your staff, and maybe even of yourself. There are gloves that have the lotion built in. There's the nitrile and the there's the soft touch and so forth. So you really want to do some testing to find out if you can narrow down the types of gloves. So once you narrow down clinically the types of gloves that you can live with, and you don't have the luxury of all the different types, you bring it to the clinical requirement. Then you've got those types. Then you nail it down to the supplier of choice. And usually you have one distributor for the gloves. That would make the most sense. There are a handful of the big distributors out there, and those are the ones that generally a dentist partners with. At Synergy, we happen to have a partnership with Darby Dental. So we have gloves on formulary. Gloves are very emotional for anybody who uses them in healthcare and janitorial, all kinds of industries. So we're very careful to have the right selection. But our partnership with Darby, we've actually collaborated. This is again about having a good supplier, and I'll stop talking in a moment, but it's important. And that is the subject matter experts over at Darby will work with our members in helping them narrow down the different offerings available based on the needs of that practice. So that practice can then establish, we have a formulary, but then you can establish the clinical requirement suite of gloves in your own practice. And Darby's really good at navigating that with our members and walking through to bring them to the right solution. So we're really proud of that. So it takes a little work, but once you get to it, it's done.
Yeah, good answer. This question popped up. We'll have time for this last question because I love the question. Jim, a supply rep comes to my practice and tells me they can beat any price. Is that true?
I'll tell you, if somebody's got to beat somebody's price. If the person walking in the door is telling you that they could beat the price, they might be that golden ticket in the Willy Wonka chocolate bar. But the fact that they're walking in to your practice means that they're getting a salary to walk into your practice. So right there, there's some you're paying for something aside from the product. You're paying for this person to walk into the practice and sell you the product. So you got to really kind of consider that. But very often, the sales rep will walk in and they'll say, give me your invoice. You have an invoice of who you're using now. They'll say, I could beat it. I can match it. I could beat it. And they very often will for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts to go back up. And if you're not paying attention, it'll keep going up. If you are paying attention, they'll give you a reason and see if they can hold on to you. So it becomes this long drawn out thing versus you doing the due diligence to get the best price with your brain.
That's all. I think we're out of time. We're at the hour. I think Tori posted something on the chat about the CE credits and the verification code. I see it right there. Thanks, Tori. Is procurement. That's what Jim specializes in, procurement. I don't. All right, excellent audience. Jim, thank you so much. Great presentation as usual, very informative. I hope everybody learned a lot and had some takeaways. Please check us out at the synergydentalpartners.com. I put Ted Oster's information in the chat. Feel free to call him. Feel free to reach out to Jim as well. And again, thank you all for spending time with us on a Thursday evening. Take care, everybody. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Tori.
Bye-bye.